Hello YouTubers, this is a video I'm going to be making about it concerns sorcery in America. It's a bad, it's a sin, every day there's something in front of us, whether it be the North American Free Trade Agreement, Jimmy Carter meeting Hamas, high gas prices, bestiality, gay marriage, it's all around us, but I was going to read you this one thing. This is about a story I found. Lynching in Congo as penis stuffed panic hits capital. Kenosha, April 22nd, Reuters Live. Police in Congo have arrested 13 suspected sorcerers accused of using black magic to still or shrink men's penises after a wave of panic and attempted lynchings triggered by the alleged witchcraft. Reports of so-called penis snatching are not uncommon in West Africa, where belief in traditional religions and witchcraft remains widespread, and where ritual killings to obtain blood or body parts still occur. Rumors of penis stuff began circulating last week in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo, sprawling capital of some 8 million inhabitants. They quickly dominated radio call-in shows, with listeners advised to beware of fellow passengers in communal taxis wearing gold rings. Perpetrated victims, 14 of whom were also detained by police, claimed that sorcerers simply touched them to make their genitals shrink or disappear, in what some residents said was an attempt to extort cash with the promise of a cure. You just have to be accused of that. People come after you. We've had a number of attempted lynchings. You see them covered in marks after being beaten. Kinshasa Police Chief Jean Dimbaka Oliko told Reuters on Tuesday. Police arrested the accused sorcerers and their victims in an effort to avoid the sort of bloodshed seen in Ghana a decade ago, when 12 suspected penis snatchers were beaten to death by angry mobs. The 27 men have since been released. I'm tempted to say it's one huge joke, Alikio said. But when you try to tell the victims that their penises are still there, they tell you that it's become tiny or that they became important. To tell that I tell them, how do you know if you haven't gone home and tried it? He said. Some Kenish residents accuse a separatist sect from nearby Bas Congo province of being behind a witchcraft in revenge for a recent government crackdown on its members. It's real. Just yesterday here, there was a man who was a victim. We saw what was left was tiny, said 29-year-old Alan Kula, who sells phone credits near a police station. For full Reuters Africa coverage and to have your say on the top issue, it says go to http africa.reuters.com, edited by Nick Tursil and Maria Gabriel. So, like I said, just because, somebody does something like the government, when you protest against government, doesn't mean you have to resort to sorceries, which are evil, We're all men, we're all born of sin, and this is another just example of exposed sin throughout the evil world which you live in. Clearly, we're living in the end times. You have Jimmy Carter, meeting with NAFTA. They want to have the Palestinians, they want to sign a 7-year deal. And also in the news, it's a good thing because Nancy Pelosi, I guess recently, I'm going to type it in the search engine, but I heard on Fox today that she declined the Colombian exchange agreement, which was good. She won't pass it for Bush, yeah, Nancy Colombia. Let's see here what I get. Nancy Colombia. And the Colombian exchange, which is bad. This is from April 22nd, which was today. North American leaders defend free trade agreement. It's a bad thing, I've told you. Actually, I can't access that because this is a Chinese newspaper. Let's see here. Hold on. Yeah, the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, declined it, which is good. Yeah. See, Pelosi maneuvered to stall Bush on Colombian FTA proves congressional. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, likely not realizing the full implications. Just a second, folks. Kind of having my dinner here. I know it's kind of late, but I'm hungry. Price foods and other things too you got to worry about. Article synopsis. On April 8th, President Bush submitted to Congress the implementing legislation for the Colombian FTA. On April 10th, the U.S. House voted in favor of House Speaker Pelosi's move to accept the Colombian FTA from the Trade Act of 1974, which imposes a 90 legislative day deadline for voting on FTA submitted by the President. The action almost certainly aggravated demonstrators, the constitutional authority Congress has over other branches of the federal government. Follow this link to the original source. On April 8th, President Bush submitted implementing legislation for the Colombian Free Trade Agreement to Congress. Under the rules of the Trade Act of 1974 and those contained in subsequent fast-track trade promotion to authority TPA bills, Congress requires itself a 90-day legislative window to hold up or down votes on trade pacts duly negotiated and submitted by the executive branch, further addicting its constitutional authority to regulate trade. Its self-imposed TPA rules also require Congress to consider implementation of the executive branch, broke deals with limited debate, and no amendments allowed. On April 10th, however, something quite dramatic happened. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, likely not realizing the full implications of her clever legislative maneuver around the president, allowed members of the U.S. to display the constitutional power they have. That which is good, because we need more constitutional people need to speak up against this stuff. To wildly over the other branches of the federal government. On a simple majority vote of 224 to 195, mostly along party lines, the House passed a one-sentence law resolution that simply exempted the Colombian FTA legislation from the Trade Act of 1964. The Wall Street Journal, not used to losing on the trade deals, called the move cheating and a first-order strategic blunder. Global smarters at the WSG would of course blame their apparent defeat on cheating, but their strategic blunder comment may be more persistent than they interested. Really? Who could have imagined that Nancy Pelosi would become a deliverer in the restoration of our Constitution? Here's the real significance of last week's vote. Pelosi's blunder validates that the John Birch Society has been saying for 50 years now. Congress is the key. It goes back to the constitutional point of fact question JBS President John F. McManus frequently trips people up on. If all legislative powers herein grant shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, how many legislative powers do the United States and Supreme Court have? Unless you want to argue that it depends on the meaning of the word all. This is a rhetorical question, so forget about silver bullet constitution amendments that take years to pass, even under best case scenarios. Forget about presidential candidates offered by the ruling party. Forget even about Supreme Court appointees. Our Congress already has the law-making authority and needs to rein and invest the majority of abuses of power by the executive and judicial branches of our federal government and its agencies. And it is the House component of our federal government, the one with the power of the purse, that we the people get a chance to reconfigure every 2 years. Comprehended again what the Pelosi-led House just demonstrated, and then imagine the possibilities for grassroots pressure on Congress. How about those one-sentence resolutions requiring only 218 votes in the House? Legislation this simple is tough to defeat with a filibuster in the Senate or presidential veto. Resolved since under the U.S. Constitution, all legislative authority is vested in the Congress. All federal laws created under the assumed authority of executive orders and presidential directives are hereby void. The judicial powers of the United States being vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish resolve, the Congress hereby excludes the inferior courts from jurisdiction in matters pertaining to fill in blank. Being that the right of the people to be secure in the persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Resolved, any federal agency conducting surveillance of the U.S. citizens without due executive search warrants describing the place to be searched and a particular purpose therefore will be arrested and prosecuted. Resolved, torture, including the technique of waterboarding, is neither allowed nor condemned by the United States of America. See how simple it is? No need for hard writing, grandstands, and tedious testimonies by federal employees on Capitol Hill, offered in place of action. Just do it. Our Constitution is the most amazing social contract ever invested, which it is. Our founding fathers are great people. We just need to know how to use it. Here are some tips. Educate enough fellow citizens as the power we have in our representative government. Get organized with like-minded people as in the JBS.org Freedom Campaign and start building relationships and influence with the candidates up for election to the 435 seats in the U.S. House. Where entrenched incumbents exist who are not willing to serve the interests and defend the freedoms of the people. Make them persons non grata in their own districts. Even bad congressmen can be influenced to do the right thing on occasion. There are no easy fixes, but because our Constitution has already been purchased and defeated with sacrifices of blood and treasured by previous generations, we yet retain the favorable disposition of merely needing to sacrifice our time to defend our freedoms. So, while success in our case can still be secured by mere expenditures of diligence and perseverance. Let's all walk together in efforts to reinvigorate our system and representative government. That's exactly what we need, folks. More people to stand up for their freedoms and liberties. That's the reason why we have things going on in our country like this. But just try to fight up against this NAFTA deal, in Colombia deal, because it is very unconstitutional and it hands over our sovereignty. So just put all your faith in Jesus Christ and let's fight this. I hope you enjoyed the article. Bye.